Welcome to the Motivational Library.
Introduction: The Architect of the Invisible. Before a single dollar enters your bank account, before an opportunity knocks at your door, and before success ever touches your hands, it has already arrived. It exists in a silent, ancient chamber within you, a place older than your memories and deeper than the world you think you inhabit. Every triumph and every tragedy begins here. This is the origin point, the private theater where images are born and silently woven into the fabric of your existence. The invisible wall. Have you ever wondered why some people rise with effortless grace while others break themselves against invisible walls? The divide is not found in intelligence, luck, or hard work. The difference is imagination, the one divine faculty every human possesses, yet almost no one knows how to wield. You have been conditioned to grind, to plan, and to endure. You were taught to struggle against the real world, but you were never told the truth that governs all other truths. You cannot attract what you cannot imagine. The law of the image. The universe is deaf to your wants, but it is acutely sensitive to your pictures. It does not respond to your words. It responds to your assumptions. Your life is a mirror, meticulously arranging itself around the silent scenes you revisit in your mind and the secret visions you permit yourself to touch. Most people use this power in reverse. They dress their fears in vivid detail until they become indistinguishable from reality. They rehearse loss, replay arguments, and visualize failure. And the subconscious mind, loyal, unquestioning, and blind to the difference between fact and fiction, accepts these horrors as commands. It moves toward a fearful image with the same surgical precision it would use to fulfill a joyful one. It does not filter. It only multiplies. The Great Awakening. The moment you grasp the terrifying weight of this power, something ancient awakens in your blood. You realize you were never meant to chase outcomes. You were meant to generate them. Your life is not pushed forward by effort. It is pulled forward by a vision. This is your invitation to step into your private workshop. This is the sacred space where the future is forged long before the world catches up. Here, you will learn to form the image of your desire, not as a distant hope, but as a living, breathing present. You will learn to dwell in it, breathe in it, and walk through it until the inner picture becomes so dense and so real that life has no choice but to rearrange itself in your honor. The invitation. Nothing can enter your experience until you first prepare a place for it in the secrecy of your mind. You do not attract through effort. You attract through embodiment. This book is a journey back to what you once knew instinctively, that your imagination is the root of all creation, the unseen hand shaping your destiny, and the silent force that answers every prayer. Stop trying to change the world. Start changing the inner pattern that the world reflects. The universe is already listening. Are you ready to give it a new command? Chapter 1. The Invisible Blueprint. Before any structure rises in the physical world, it exists in a realm unseen. Deep within you lies a hidden workshop where reality is molded long before it hardens into the circumstances of your life. In this silent region, the seeds of every experience are planted. Most people move through their days under the illusion that life happens to them, that they are drifting on the currents of luck, external decisions, or random chance. But the deeper truth, known only to those who have awakened, is this: nothing arrives from the outside. Everything you see, touch, and experience emerges from a blueprint you carry within. This blueprint is not drafted with logic or reason. It is woven from images, impressions, moods, and deep-seated assumptions. It is the sum total of what you unconsciously accept as true for yourself. The secret theater. Long before an opportunity knocks, or a relationship begins, or prosperity arrives, you have already lived it. You have touched it in your imagination. You have rehearsed it in the secret theater of your mind. You felt its presence so vividly that its physical arrival was not a surprise, but a mathematical certainty. Look back at your greatest triumphs. Trace them to their root. You will find that before the event occurred, you held an inner picture of it. Even if it was fleeting, you saw yourself in that state before life ever cleared the path toward it. This is the invisible blueprint at work. It is the silent architect placing every door, every bridge, and every passageway of your journey. The tragedy of unconscious design. The great mystery is that most people are using their blueprints to build their own prisons. They imagine, but they imagine what they fear. They rehearse the worst-case scenarios. They play scenes of rejection, scarcity, and disappointment with far more emotional intensity than the triumphs they claim to want. Without realizing it, they are signing their names to blueprints of a future they would never consciously choose. Your imagination is never idle. Even now, images are rising and dissolving within you. Memories, projections, and expectations moving like clouds across an inner sky. Each of these is a thread. Some are bright and bold. Others are dark and heavy. The architect's choice. Think of two people standing in the same room. One sees an open door. The other sees a rising wall. One envisions a ladder. The other sees an abyss. Life, ever faithful to the blueprint, responds to each with perfect surgical accuracy. Imagination is not a passive daydream. It is the sculptor of destiny. When you recognize that every inner picture is a coming attraction, you reclaim your authorship. Imagine walking into an architect's studio. The table is covered in sketches and models. None of them exist physically yet, but they are undeniably real. If the architect approves the plan and commits to it, the workers will arrive. The materials will be ordered. The foundation will be laid. Your mind is that studio. Every time you imagine something with feeling, you are approving a blueprint. Your subconscious does not ask if the plan is pleasant or painful. It does not judge if the image will help or hurt you. It only executes. It is a tireless servant that brings the inner image into physical solidity. Reclaiming the pen. To change your life, you must stop being a spectator of your thoughts and become a deliberate designer. Repetition is your approval. Feeling is your permission. Assumption is your commitment. Once you commit inwardly, the universe begins to rearrange itself. This chapter is your threshold. When you step through it, you stop waiting for life to bring you what you desire and you begin constructing it from the inside out. You are no longer escaping reality through imagination. You are creating it. Dare to imagine boldly. Your blueprint is waiting for your signature. Chapter 2. The Law Behind All Attraction. Every human life is guided by an unseen current, a silent, relentless force that does not answer to your struggle, your sweat, or your status. It ignores your intellect and overlooks your circumstances. Instead, it responds to one thing and one thing only, the image held within the mind. This is the law beneath every other law. It is the invisible principle of manifestation that functions with or without your permission. At its heart lies a truth so simple it is often ignored. You cannot attract what you cannot imagine. The magnetic atmosphere. Attraction is not a mystical accident or a cosmic stroke of luck. It is the natural consequence of a mind that holds a picture with conviction. The outer world is not a separate entity. It is the shadow cast by your inner light. Think of a magnet's influence over metal fragments. The metal doesn't choose to move. It is compelled by an invisible field. You, too, exert a field, an electromagnetic atmosphere generated by your mental pictures, your emotional tones, and your secret assumptions. Opportunities, relationships, and financial shifts do not happen to you. They drift toward or away from you based on the frequency of your internal imagery. Most people believe they are thinking about life, but in truth, they are imagining for life. Every mental scene you rehearse is a command issued to the deeper mind. The subconscious servant. The subconscious is a perfect servant. It moves heaven and earth to fulfill the image impressed upon it. If you rehearse rejection, you radiate a signal that invites it. If you imagine abundance, you open a channel for it to flow. If you dress your fears in vivid detail, the subconscious, blind to the difference between a nightmare and a dream, executes the order with surgical precision. This law is mathematical. It does not fail. We call our outcomes luck or fate, simply because we do not see the invisible hand that drew them to us. The great paradox. The tragedy of the human condition is the conflict between desire and belief. A person may declare they want wealth, but their inner canvas is painted with the gray strokes of debt and limitation. They may seek love, but their imagination is a gallery of past betrayals. They want success, but inwardly, they are watching a movie of their own unworthiness. The law of attraction is deaf to your words and your wishes. It only hears your images. It does not mirror what you say. It mirrors the inner conflict you accept as real. From daydream to substance. There is a moment of awakening when you finally see the inner movie reflected in the outer life. You realize that the patterns repeating in your life are not curses. They are reflections of images rehearsed so often they have become the path of least resistance. Imagination is not a daydream. It is substance. It is the beginning of form. Every image held with feeling imprints itself on the subconscious, which then expresses that image through your body, your intuition, and the chance encounters that shape your day. The law doesn't ask why you are imagining failure. It simply multiplies it. Fear is imagination distorted. Hope is imagination unfocused. Conviction is imagination realized. Mastering the field. Mastery begins with a ruthless awareness of your quiet spaces. What if pictures rise when no one is watching? What scenes do you replay before sleep? In these silent moments, your future is being forged. Attraction is not about forcing the universe to give you something. It is about aligning your inner image so consistently that the universe has no choice but to reflect it. You no longer need to wait. You no longer need to hope. You only need to imagine deliberately. For every outward effect is but a shadow, and as the image changes, the shadow must follow. Chapter 3. The subconscious is silent soil. Every seed that has ever pierced the earth has depended on a single, unwavering law. The soil does not care. The earth does not judge the seed. It does not debate its value, negotiate its purpose, or question whether it is a fragrant rose or a deadly nightshade. It simply accepts, embraces, and multiplies. Your subconscious mind is the soil. It is the fertile, silent expanse in which every image, every feeling, and every inner conversation is planted. Whatever is impressed upon it, whether it is your highest desire or your deepest dread, must grow after its kind. The perfect mirror. Most people misunderstand the subconscious. They view it as a chaotic, unpredictable force, a dark ocean that reacts without warning. In reality, it is the most consistent element of your being. It does not forget. It does not argue. It does not reason. While your conscious mind chooses the seed, your subconscious grows the crop. Every scene you imagine with emotional intensity becomes an imprint. When you repeatedly picture yourself falling, your subconscious accepts that blueprint as an instruction. It begins to pave the paths that lead you toward your own expectation. But when you imagine yourself rising, succeeding, and expanding, it aligns your intuition, your impulses, and your external opportunities to match that inner vision. It has no choice, can only produce what you provide. The moisture of emotion. Consider the thousands of thoughts that drift through your mind daily. Most are like seeds tossed onto bare stone. They never take root. But the thoughts you feel, the ones you dwell upon and revisit in the dark of night, carry a specific charge. Emotion is the moisture that softens the soil. Feeling is the signal the subconscious listens to. If an image is charged with fear, the soil grows a reality of lack. If it is charged with gratitude, it grows abundance. Many people unknowingly water their inner soil with the acid of anxiety. They replay distressing scenes with such vivid detail that the subconscious, which cannot distinguish between a memory and a present fact, takes these catastrophes as commands. It prepares your body, your chemistry, and your environment to fulfill the very tragedy you fear. This is the secret behind the creative power of fear. It is simply imagination turned inward without a master. The eternal spring. The moment you realize the subconscious is your silent partner, your life changes. You realize the soil is always ready for a new seed. No matter how many bitter crops you have grown in the past, the field is never done. The subconscious does not cling to old commands out of loyalty. It simply grows whatever is planted most consistently today. You are never a prisoner of your past patterns unless you continue to water them with your attention. The moment you introduce a new, dominant image, felt as a natural reality, the old one begins to wither. When a new self-concept is accepted inwardly, the old version of you must fade away. Imagine standing in a vast field. In the distance, you see the harvests of years past, some fruitful, some undesirable. You do not change the field by fighting the old plants. You change it by turning your back on the weeds and tending to new patches. Over time, The new growth overtakes the old until the entire landscape is transformed. The key and the gateway. Your subconscious field does not prefer the old over the new. It only expands what you continue to feel. This is why imagination is the key and feeling is the gateway. A single image held with genuine emotion impresses the soil more deeply than 1,000 mechanical affirmations. When you imagine from the end, feeling the reality of your desire as if it were a present fact, you send a shockwave through the soil. The subconscious receives the command instantly and begins rearranging the conditions of your life. You might wonder, how can a simple picture alter the physical world? The answer is in the unseen influence. The subconscious pattern shapes. To your intuition, what impulses rise within you? To your perception, which opportunities you notice and which you overlook? To your embodiment, your confidence, your posture, and your tone of voice? To your attraction, the frequency of people and situations that cross your path? When you plant an image with feeling, you are not forcing life. You are authorizing it. You are giving the silent soil a new set of instructions. The sower's responsibility. You stand now at the edge of your inner field, holding a handful of seeds. Each seed is a picture, a possibility, a version of your future. The soil beneath your feet is fertile, obedient, and bound by its nature to express whatever you plant. You are not at the mercy of life. You are the sower of it. Whatever you dare to imagine, whatever you dare to feel is true. The silent soil of your subconscious will bring forth with a generosity that mirrors the vastness of your soul. Chapter 4. The Inner Saboteur. Within every human life dwells a hidden architect. We often call it the inner saboteur, a quiet, relentless force that shapes our future not through malice, but through a profound misunderstanding of its own power. This saboteur is not a demon, an external enemy, or a curse lingering from a difficult childhood. It is much simpler and more tragic than that. It is imagination turned against itself. Until you grasp this truth, you will spend your years wrestling with shadows, trying to escape external conditions that you unknowingly constructed in the dark rooms of your own mind. The misdirected prophet. Fear is not a warning from destiny. It is not an intuitive message from the universe or a psychic premonition of what must be. Fear is merely imagination misdirected, imagination dressed in funeral colors. When fear rises, it presents its own vivid cinema. Scenes of loss, humiliation, danger, and collapse. These scenes feel authoritative and urgent, not because they are true, but because imagination always feels real, no matter what it paints. Your biological system cannot distinguish between an imagined threat and a physical one. Your heart races, your breath shallows, and your subconscious accepts the horror as an order. The inner saboteur isn't trying to harm you. It is trying to protect you based on the terrifying pictures you feed it. But protection based on fear is nothing more than a well-guarded prison. The language of command. Every time you rehearse a fearful image, you authorize its arrival. Most people are unaware of how often they misdirect this creative fire. They imagine illness the moment the body sends a minor signal. They imagine ruin when a simple bill arrives. They imagine abandonment when a loved one is merely silent. Because these images generate violent emotions, the subconscious interprets them as commands. Remember, emotion is the language of the deeper mind. Whatever you feel deeply, you command. Fear acts as a master hypnotist. It narrows your vision, magnifies the threat, and whispers that the nightmare is the only possible reality. Borrowed power. Here is the great secret. Fear has no creative power of its own. It is a parasite. It borrows the creative power of your imagination. Without your ability to visualize, fear is paralyzed. It has no story to tell and no future to project. This means fear can be unmade exactly as it was made, by shifting the imagery. The moment you present a new picture, a new possibility or a new emotional tone, fear loses its grip. It does not dissolve because you fought it. It dissolves because you stopped feeding it. Fear is not a prophecy. It is a suggestion. It is a draft, and every draft can be rewritten. The projector and the reel. Imagine standing before an immense projector. Behind you is a vast reel of film, where every frame is a thought, a worry, or a hope. The film runs automatically unless you intervene. The images projected onto the screen of your life feel so tangible that you forget they began as motionless stills behind your back. Fear is simply a reel you have allowed to run unchecked. But the projector is neutral. It does not care which film is loaded. It will project a tragedy or a triumph with the same crystal clarity. Reach back. Remove the reel of fear. Slide in a new one. Scenes of clarity, calm, and inner certainty. The projector does not hesitate. As the new scenes unfold, the fear that once felt like an immovable mountain breaks apart like fog under a morning sun. Mastering the movie. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is the mechanical reality of the mind. Imagination is the projector. Emotion is the light. The subconscious is the screen. Your life is the movie. The inner saboteur exists only to show you the raw power of your own mind. It reveals what happens to your reality when your imagination is left unguided. But once you begin painting your inner images deliberately, the saboteur becomes unnecessary. It fades, and in its place rises a quiet, unmistakable inner authority. You will still see the storms of the mind, but you will no longer fear them. You will recognize them as drafts and calmly redirect the image. You will choose the picture that nourishes your growth, and with repetition, this choice will become your default state. You are reclaiming your imagination as your servant. You are awakening to the truth that your greatest power has always been your ability to imagine what you desire more vividly than what you fear. Chapter 5. Thinking from the End. There is a secret doorway into every future. A passage that does not open through brute force, complex logic, or tireless action. It opens through a singular internal shift, the decision to think from the end, rather than toward it. Most people live in a state of perpetual longing. They view their desires as distant, fragile possibilities that might, if luck allows and conditions align, one day come true. They think like weary travelers standing at the base of a mountain, staring at a peak far on the horizon, wondering how many grueling miles they must trek to reach it. But creation does not unfold from distance. It unfolds from identity. What you imagine yourself to already be, you inevitably become. The illusion of toward. Thinking toward a goal is the language of separation. When you imagine your desire as something outside of you, something you hope to possess someday, you are unintentionally issuing a command to your subconscious. This is not mine yet. Your subconscious, ever obedient, fulfills that command by maintaining the distance. It reflects back to you a life where your desire remains forever out of reach. Thinking from the end, however, means stepping into the sanctuary of the fulfilled desire now, before a single shred of physical evidence appears. It means wearing the outcome like a tailored garment and moving through the world as if the wish were already an accomplished fact. The discipline of assumption. Thinking from the end is not a fantasy, nor is it mere pretending. It is a disciplined act of mental authority. It is the deliberate shift of your entire consciousness into the state of the one who already possesses the manifestation. You do not visualize the outcome happening. You visualize yourself living in it. You bypass the how. You bypass the limitations of your five senses. You bypass the loud, nagging doubts of logic. You enter the state emotionally as if it were your present reality. Because the subconscious accepts the feeling of the present over the evidence of the senses, it begins the surgical task of reorganizing your outer world to match your inner acceptance. The shift of identity. The most powerful transformations feel effortless. This isn't because action isn't taken, but because the action arises naturally from the new identity. When you think about success, you struggle to find the right moves. When you think from success, you behave differently without force. Your decisions sharpen. Your posture changes. Your energy shifts. You begin selecting opportunities that match your new inner frequency, and life begins selecting you in return. This is the art of emotional embodiment. It is the ability to taste the fruit before the tree has even sprouted. The master at work, healing and wealth. Consider the difference in approach. Healing. If you think toward healing, you focus on the struggle and the waiting. You reinforce the identity of a sick person seeking relief. But if you think from healing, you inhabit the vitality and the joy of wholeness. You feel the relief and the normalcy of wellness. As this feeling becomes your dominant home, the body, the shadow of the mind, begins to conform to the new light. Prosperity. If you think toward wealth, you are fueled by the lack of it. You see the bills and the gap between your current state and your dream. But if you think from wealth, you inhabit the stability and the mental calm that prosperity provides. You act with the quiet confidence of someone who has access to resources. Drawn by this inner abundance, the world reveals paths that were previously invisible. The rebellion of the senses. At first, your senses will protest. They will point at your bank account or your circumstances and shout, "It is not here." But the senses are followers, not leaders. They are the caboose of the train, not the engine. They can only reflect what you have already imagined. If you persist in the inner state long enough, the senses must eventually bow. There comes a moment, a flash of certainty, where the desire no longer feels like a hope. It feels like an inevitability. This is the moment the blueprint is sealed. This is the moment the subconscious registers the state as complete. The present future. The future is not ahead of you, waiting to be reached through time. It is within you, waiting to be assumed through imagination. The moment you dare to imagine yourself in possession of what you seek, the invisible forces of life begin to move. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Chapter 6. The Identity Shift. There comes a pivotal moment in every transformation when you realize that desires do not fail because they are too large, too ambitious, or too distant. They fail for one reason only: they do not match the identity you hold within. You cannot attract what contradicts your self-concept. The subconscious mind does not grant wishes. It expresses identity. It cannot give you what you want. It can only give you what you are. Identity is the silent architect of attraction, the hidden script beneath your thoughts, the invisible costume you wear before the world, and the unseen role you play without ever knowing you chose it. The gravitational field of the I am. Identity is the gravitational field of the mind. It pulls in experiences that match its vibration and repels anything that threatens its consistency. You may pray for success, but if you see yourself as a struggler, success will remain a ghost. You may long for love, but if you imagine yourself as unworthy or invisible, your relationships will meticulously mirror that belief. You may seek abundance, but if your identity is forged in scarcity, wealth will slip through your fingers like water. This is why people often experience flashes of success only to return to familiar hardships. The identity reasserts itself. The subconscious whispers, "This success is a mistake. It isn't who we are," and the world complies, resetting your reality to reflect the old pattern. The seed of being. To shift your life, you must shift your identity. Not your behavior, your appearance, or your hustle. You must change your inner sense of I am. Whatever follows those two words becomes your physical experience, and the subconscious will defend that definition with relentless consistency. Identity is built through repeated imagination. Every time you picture yourself in a certain way, you are rehearsing a character. Most people unknowingly cast themselves as the victim of circumstance. They replay memories of failure and stories of inadequacy with such emotion that the identity becomes fixed. It isn't true, but it is familiar, and the subconscious prefers a familiar hell to an unfamiliar heaven. The quiet revolution. An identity shift does not require brute force. It requires subtle, repeated inner experiences. If you wish to embody confidence, shouting affirmations at a mirror won't work if the inner picture remains small. Instead, you must sit in the silence, close your eyes, and imagine yourself moving through the world as a confident person. Feel the steadiness in your chest. Sense the clarity in your voice. Imagine the ease of your decisions. In that moment, the subconscious absorbs a new image. It says, "Ah, so this is who we are now." Then the quiet revolution begins. 1. Physiology shifts. Your posture straightens and your breathing deepens naturally. 2. Signal shifts. You radiate a new energy that others sense and respond to. 3. Perception shifts. You notice opportunities you were previously blind to. 4. Action shifts. Bold decisions become instinctual rather than forced. Identity is destiny. If you imagine yourself small, life will shrink to fit you. If you imagine yourself capable, deserving, and powerful, the world must reshape its boundaries to accommodate your expansion. This is not arrogance. It is self-recognition. You are the only authority who can sign the papers for a new identity. No one can do it for you. But the moment you grant yourself that inner permission, the moment you begin to imagine from a place of dignity and worth, the universe responds with a swiftness that feels miraculous. It is the natural consequence of an awakened imagination. Step into the version of yourself that matches the life you desire. Say, I am with intention. Life, faithful as ever, will begin to unfold according to the new blueprint, stamped with the quiet authority of your inner transformation. Chapter 7: The Secret Art of Revision. There is a quiet power hidden within every human life, a force so close and so simple that most overlook it entirely. It is the ability to revisit the past, not to relive its pain, but to reshape its meaning. To take the moments that wounded, confused, or limited you and breathe new life into them is the secret art of revision. This is not about denying the facts of history. It is about reclaiming the authority you unknowingly surrendered to memory. You are not bound by the past because it happened. You are bound because you continue to imagine it exactly as it was. Memory is imagination in reverse. What you call your past is not the event itself, but the frozen image you have preserved of it. You are not imprisoned by cold facts. You are imprisoned by the emotional pictures that remain alive in your subconscious. Once accepted, these pictures become the blueprints for your present choices, reactions, and expectations. The past only echoes because you allow its old frequency to play in the theater of your mind. Revision is the act of selecting a new image, one that liberates you. When you revise, you are telling the subconscious, this is our new starting point. And the subconscious, obedient and literal, rewrites your internal patterns to match the new record. The alchemy of the thread. Imagine a thread stretching from your earliest memories to your present identity. Each memory is a knot. Some are soft, but others, knots of regret, shame, or anger, are pulled tight. Every time you relive a mistake or rehearse an old embarrassment, you pull the thread tighter. You authorize the past to dictate your future. Revision unravels the knots. It erases the emotional charge while keeping the wisdom. By stepping back into the memory with your imaginative faculty, you can reshape the scene. Do you replace the painful ending with a peaceful one? Do you act with the strength you wish you had then? Do you give yourself the words of support that the original moment lacked? The science of inner change. You may wonder, how can changing a thought alter something that happened years ago? The answer is that your current identity is built on the emotional impressions of those moments. If the impression changes, the foundation of your I am shifts. You aren't altering history. You are altering the psychological roots that determine how you respond to life today. Revision is inner alchemy. It transforms the lead of old pain into the gold of new understanding. It dissolves the weight of the past until you feel a sudden spaciousness, as if a heavy thumb has finally been lifted from your chest. The practice of the new script. The practice is a simple but profound mental exercise. 1. Choose a moment. Pick a memory that still carries a sting or a heavy emotional weight. 2. Enter the scene. Close your eyes and feel the atmosphere of that time. 3. Rewrite the ending. Gently shift the memory. Change your reaction. Change the other person's behavior. Insert the words you needed to hear. 4. Feel the relief. Stay in the revised scene until it feels more real than the original. The subconscious accepts whatever you feel as true in the present moment. Once the emotional tone shifts, the internal record is updated, and the old pattern dissolves. Restoring authority. Revision is the great eraser of limitations. Think of someone who always expects rejection because of a childhood wound. By revising that memory to one of acceptance or dignity, the subconscious no longer carries the instruction to be rejected. The expectation shifts, the attraction shifts, and suddenly, the outer world begins to offer acceptance because the inner story has been healed. The past is not your master, your imagination is. When you learn to wield it not only for your future but also to heal your past, you reclaim the wholeness that was always your birthright. Chapter 8. Inner Speech. The words that become worlds. There is a voice inside you that never rests. It speaks when your lips are still. It murmurs when the room is silent. As you walk, work, dream, and drift. This voice maintains a relentless monologue. This is your inner speech, the most potent creative tool at your command. It is the scriptwriter of your destiny, the quiet narrator of your self-concept, and the whispered author of your future. Because the subconscious mind listens to this voice with absolute, literal obedience, your inner speech becomes the living blueprint of your outer world. The causal whisper. Inner speech is not casual. It is causal. Most of the time, it is so familiar that it becomes invisible, yet it is constantly predicting, interpreting, and justifying your reality. Every sentence repeated silently is a seed planted in the subconscious soil. The law multiplies it, and life expresses it through experiences that mirror its tone. What you whisper to yourself creates the climate of your mind, and your mind dictates the climate of your life. If your inner dialogue is heavy with doubt, the world feels like shifting sand. If it is saturated with worry, the world feels like a predator. But when your inner speech aligns with gratitude and expectancy, the world brightens, and events unfold with a sense of quiet favor. The chain of creation. Most people attempt to change their lives by changing their actions. But action is merely the final link in a long chain. 1. Inner speech, the origin. 2. Assumption, the belief. 3. Emotion, the fuel. 4. Action, the result. Your outer world is simply the echo of your inner dialogue. If you wish to change the echo, you must change the original sound. Language as imagination. Inner speech is imagination in language. The subconscious does not hear literal grammar. It hears the emotional frequency behind the words. So when you say, "I hope this works," the subconscious hears uncertainty. When you say, "I always make the wrong choice," the subconscious hears identity. So when you say, "Good things never last," you are issuing a command to end every blessing prematurely. Conversely, when you shift the narrative to "life supports me" or "everything is aligning for my good," you are providing new linguistic instructions that the subconscious must execute. You are constantly casting spells upon your future with every whispered phrase. The master narrative. Think of the person who habitually tells themselves, "Nothing ever works out for me." This inner speech acts as a filter. They approach opportunities with a flinch. They interpret neutral events as negative omens. They retreat at the first sign of friction. Life, ever faithful, mirrors their expectation. Now, imagine that same person adopting a new narrative. "Everything is working in my favor." At first, the words feel fragile, but with repetition, the subconscious softens. They begin to notice advantages they once overlooked. Their energy lightens. They persist where they once surrendered. Life responds differently not because the world changed, but because the person changed the silent words that govern their perception. The marriage of image and word. The most profound transformations occur when imagination and inner speech work in harmony. Imagination provides the image, the what. Inner speech provides the narrative, the meaning. When these two align, a new self is born. To harness this power, you must guide your inner speech with intention, not force. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you deeply love. Replace criticism with encouragement. Replace what if fears with it is certainties. The sovereign voice. Repetition is the sculptor of identity. In time, your inner speech becomes your greatest ally, the voice of wisdom that directs you toward fulfillment rather than fear. You will realize that you have been shaping your world all along. You simply hadn't learned to hold the pen. In the sanctuary of your mind, your words are creating your worlds. Speak wisely. Chapter 9. The atmosphere of expectancy. There is a quality of mind more powerful than hope, stronger than desire, and far more magnetic than effort. It is the subtle inner atmosphere known as expectancy. It is the calm, steady conviction that what you have imagined is already on its way, that the unseen is assembling itself on your behalf and the invisible currents of life have begun flowing in your direction. Expectancy is not a wish. It is not a guess. It is not optimism pretending away uncertainty. It is the quiet knowing that precedes the manifestation, the sunlight of creation. To understand expectancy is to understand the final movement of creation. You have drafted the blueprint, planted the seed in the subconscious soil, and shifted your identity. But without expectancy, The seed lies dormant in the dark. Expectancy warms the soil. It activates the law and breathes life into the image you have cultivated. If imagination is the seed and feeling is the water, expectancy is the sunlight. It is the energetic nourishment that makes growth natural, effortless, and inevitable. Most people live in an atmosphere of expectancy every day without realizing it. They expect disappointment, and it arrives. They expect conflict, and it finds them. They expect struggle, and life obliges. This is not a curse. It is a command. The subconscious expresses whatever is expected with perfect, mechanical loyalty. Reaching versus claiming. There is a profound energetic difference between desire and expectancy. Desire reaches, expectancy allows. Desire wants, expectancy claims. Desire looks to the future. Expectancy stands in the satisfied present. Desire says, I hope this happens. Expectancy says, of course it will. The universe does not respond to the desperate, reaching energy of wanting. It responds to the settled assurance of having. Think of the difference between someone waiting anxiously for a vital message, checking their phone every 10 seconds in fear, and someone who knows the message is coming. The latter is calm, open, and receptive. Their internal vibration is one of trust, not lack. The creative attunement. When you expect good, your behavior shifts through 1,000 tiny, powerful adjustments. You walk with a different stride. You look people in the eye. You notice opportunities where you once saw threats. You take inspired action instead of hesitant steps. Expectancy is the emotional signature of creative faith. The faith that your imagination is not an escape, but a preview. The faith that your subconscious is not sleeping, but working. Many sabotage themselves by aligning their imagination with heaven, but their expectancy with fear. They visualize wealth while expecting bills. But because expectancy carries more emotional weight, the subconscious follows the expectation of debt every time. You must cultivate a chosen atmosphere of good. Developing the natural state. How do you develop expectancy? Not through force or begging, but through familiarity. The more you inhabit the feeling of your fulfilled desire, the more natural it becomes. At first, your dream may feel like a fantasy, but as you persist, the inner world becomes more real than the outer. The state settles into the subconscious. You stop hoping to be prosperous or loved. You begin to expect it as the next logical step. It becomes something that belongs to you. At the expectant heart, they no longer wonder if love will find them. They move through the world with the warmth of someone already cherished. At the expectant mind, they no longer worry about how the money will come. They operate with the stability of someone whose needs are already met. The final key. Expectancy is quiet. It does not shout. It is the feeling you carry when you know the outcome is already decided. This is the final key in the chain of creation. When you master it, the gap between the unseen and the seen begins to close. Your desires approach you not slowly, but swiftly, drawn by the steady gravity of your inner certainty. Walk today with the energy of someone whose blessings are already unfolding. Breathe with the confidence of someone who trusts the blueprint. The universe is not just listening. It is responding to your expectation. Chapter 10. Living from the Unseen. There comes a definitive point on every inner journey where a choice must be made. It is not a choice made with your hands or your actions, but with your awareness. It is the choice between living from the visible or living from the unseen. Most people live from the visible. They are the senses subjects, reacting to whatever the world reports. They treat appearances as final facts and current conditions as destiny. To them, the world is a solid, unyielding wall. But a rare few, the masters of their own destiny, live from the unseen. They walk the same streets, but they walk differently. They are guided by an inner vision that is more real to them than anything the eyes can verify. The generative truth. To live from the unseen is to operate from the foundational truth. Reality is shaped within before it appears without. It is the understanding that what you hold in your imagination today is what you will touch with your hands tomorrow. This is not denial. It is mastery. It is the recognition that appearances are merely temporary echoes of past thoughts, while inner states are the generative engines of the future. The world has no choice but to rearrange itself around the one who refuses to be hypnotized by what is. The compass of vision. When you live from the unseen, your inner picture becomes your compass. You no longer wait for external evidence to give you permission to feel successful, loved, or whole. You generate those states from within. This inner posture changes the very nature of your existence. Setbacks are no longer defeats. They are merely the shifting of scenery. Delays are no longer denials. They are the invisible orchestration of the perfect moment. External conditions are seen for what they truly are. The last piece of the equation, never the first. Most people falter because they surrender their creative authority the moment the physical world contradicts their inner picture. They call their dreams unrealistic. But those who live from the unseen know that the senses only reveal the past. They allow their imagination to dictate what is inevitable. The gravitational pull of alignment. Living from the unseen is not a passive daydream. It is an active alignment. It is the deliberate decision to occupy the mental and emotional state of the person who already possesses the prize. You think, feel, and speak from that state not to fake it, but as an acknowledgement that the inner shift is already a fact. This alignment creates a gravitational pull that the world calls luck or synchronicity. In reality, it is the choreography of the law. Obstacles transform into invitations. Coincidences reveal themselves as careful orchestrations. Life becomes fluid, layered, and deeply meaningful. The measure of progress. When you live from the unseen, you stop measuring progress by what your eyes can see. You measure it by the quality of your inner state. If you are calm, clear, and connected to your vision, you are progressing, even if the world hasn't moved an inch yet. The world cannot resist the sustained pressure of a fixed inner state. It must bend. It must reflect. It must manifest. Whether it is the body seeking healing or the spirit seeking prosperity, the process is the same. You stand in the middle of your current life as though you were already standing in the middle of your desired one. You let the invisible future guide your present steps. The final invitation. The unseen is not a fantasy. It is the seedbed of reality. It is the silent origin from which your life unfolds. Once you learn to live from the unseen, the chase is over. You no longer hunt for your desires. You embody them. You no longer seek your destiny. You become it. And the world, faithful as a mirror, will forever rearrange itself to honor the truth you carry within.